Good evening and welcome back to our weekly question and answer series for Anash.org. Question: if I make soup in a parve instant pot and then want to blend the soup while it's still hot, can I use a blender which was used in a fleischig pot or a millig pot while hot and keep the instant pot parve? The blender was never used for actual milchig or actual fleischig, just in a milchige or fleischige pot. Yes, you could use it and the pot will still stay parv, because that's called not banat the hataira, because the flesh gave in a blia, a taste in the blender. That's the first taste which went in from the meat into the blender. Then from the blender it went into the soup, which is the second taste, which is the second nut, and it's still heter, no problem. Then from the soup it went in back to the parva pot, which you are using now, the instant pot. That's third noisen tam, third taste. So when it's noisen tam bar noisen tam, that means when it's two tastes and it's still mitter, then you don't have a problem of something becoming milchige fleischig. And over here you have three tastes. So therefore, yes, you could use them in the pot which is parva and it still stays parva. And this is also if all three are still ben yoime. It was used in the last 24 hours. It's still the pot which you are going to use for the pot, for the soup, which you are going to blend in a blender which was used for milchigs or fleischigs. It is no problem because it's three noisen tam the hataira. Question: in a previous shir you said that the book fee, tzivas Hashem and trips cannot be counted as part of maser because he's benefiting from it. However, he is not benefiting, but his children are benefiting from these things. And children above the age of 6, he's not obligated to support. All of these things, directly or indirectly, have an effect on the development of a child. If all children are going on the trip and his child doesn't go, it might have a negative effect on their child. It seems that all these things should have the same ruling as tuition. But if you go with this cheshbon, so you could buy for a child anything and everything, because if he's going to see something else by a different child and he's not going to get it, according to the 2022 standard, the children will get damaged. So basically you could buy for a child anything and everything, because if he's not going to get it, he might get damaged. If he's not going to go to a trip, he's going to get damaged. He's not going to get an electric scooter, he's going to get damaged because his friend has it. But it doesn't work like that. Anything which you gain from it, you cannot buy from maser. And even a child which is above 6, according to the poskim say, which the minig and the cider is to that even older than 6, you're still obligated to give all his needs, and even the bezdin koifen al zeh forces you on it. So anything which you have a gain out of it, you cannot buy from maser, and that will go in anything which you gain, which is a trip or book fees, all these things. Question: since we are supposed to hear every word from the chazan when the Shmoneh Esrei is repeated, how are we able to say moedim derabanan? Also, I have been in a minyanim where on certain occasions the chazan says the last bracha sibshula with a nigun, and the congregation joins in, and it becomes impossible to hear the chazan. I understand this also occurred by the Rebbe's minyan. How is it permitted? a very good question. A question which bothered me a lot. So let's start with Moedim. In Sefer HaManugim, our Sefer HaManugim, Chabad, page 12, the Rebbe writes that Amiras HaMoedim of the Shlich Tzibur has to be said bekoil, has to be said aloud. The same as all other brachas in davening. And not like the Minige Olam that the Shlich Tzibur says it quietly. So that's the first thing which we see in the Sefer HaManugim, you have to say Moedim aloud. Addition, the Mishnah Berurah, Sima Kivchov Dalat, Tzivkot Mem Aleph, brings this issue up already, and he says, today's day, people say Moedim quietly, and then a person which want to be Yoitze through the Shlich Tzibur could not be Yoitze, because he doesn't hear a Moedim. And I don't know from where this mini comes. Now he says, although we know that the minig is that the Tzibur says Moizim Derabonan, but Al Kaponam, the Shlich Tzibur, has to say the Moedim aloud. At least some people, 10 people should hear the Berches Moedim. So he already brings up this issue and he says that Moedim has to be allowed, the same as it says in Sefer HaManugim. It's interesting to note that in Yerushalmi, in Masechtas Bruchas, Perik Aleph, Halacha Ches, Yerushalmi says, when it comes to Moedim, the whole Tzibur bows, together with the Shlich Tzibur, and they say quietly, Moedim Derabonan. So we see already that in Yerushalmi, according to Yerushalmi, the Shlich Tzibur has to say it aloud, and the people has to say it quietly. So getting back to Moedim, you're correct. Moedim has to be said aloud. And all the Olam have to say it quietly. At least 10 people should hear how the Shlich Tzibur says Moedim aloud. And that's a thing which I was more already a while ago, that one of the things the Shlich Tzibur has to know, he has to say aloud Moedim. The same one also has to say Kedusha. The whole Kedusha has to say aloud, because a person which is a Milav Shemen Esra, and is Yoitze Kedusha through Shmai Koina, if the Shlich Tzibur doesn't say the whole Kedusha aloud, he just only says, if the Kasha Kosiv Leimer, but he doesn't say Baruch Kavoid, so that person is not Yoitze. So therefore, you have to say it aloud. Now regarding Simshulam, that people sing and you cannot listen to the whole bracha. It is correct, you're right, that basically, according to the Mishnah Berurah, according to the Sefer HaManugim, at least 10 people should hear how the Shlich Tzibur says Simshulam. And I saw that Harav Yosef Lieberman, one of the Poskim Yerushalayim, in one of the Koiftzum, which is called Vayvorech Yehuda Gillian Zayin Umad Ayin Gimel, he writes already that you have to be makbet, that Simshulam and all other things should be said aloud, that at least 10 people should hear it. And he says that maybe the people should, when they finish singing, the Shlich Tzibur should repeat it, people should hear. But after all, we see it especially in the Yom HaNeruim, in all the kehillas on the world, they used to sing by Shemen Esra. So we have to say that we made sure that at least 10 people should hear how the Shlich Tzibur says it, or we have to say that since today's day, nobody is being yoytze mit Chazuras HaShlich Tzibur, Chazuras HaShatz, and it's only said because of the Konos Chazal, maybe it's not a chiyuv to hear every word. Maybe. But basically the best thing would be that yes, at least 10 people should hear when the Shlich Tzibur says Simshulam. If I correct correctly, if I remember correctly, I think that the Rebbe himself never sang when he was about Tefillah. Not Shabbos, and of course not the weekdays. So it could be that was one of the reasons, because he wanted the people should hear every word of the davening. Question: am I obligated to say Aleinu with the minyan if I am behind the minyan? Regarding saying Aleinu with the tzibur, the Magen Avraham, Mesimas Hamaches, if Koten Gimel writes over there that when the Shulchan Aruch says that you have to say Shema together with the whole tzibur, so the Magen Avraham says that the same will also go other things which the tzibur says, like Tehillah L'Duva, that means Ashrai, that the whole tzibur should say together with the tzibur. Everybody should say together with the tzibur because of the Eretz. That means the Eretz, the whole tzibur says it, and one person doesn't say it's not the Eretz. So therefore, the same as the Mechaber says that you should say Shema with the whole, with the tzibur, you should also say Tehillah L'Duvit. The Machzor Shekel over there writes the same will also go to Aleinu Shabayach, that you should say together with the tzibur. The Eliyarabba Siman Reish Lamed Zay Sifkut and Dalet, and also the Mishnah Berurah in Siman Samaches Sifkut and Tes brings also down that minik derech eretz, that you should say Aleinu with the tzibur. But in Alichas Shloime, Tfilas Perik Vov Hora 27, the Shloime Zalman Auerbach writes that we are not nizer in this. That means it's not the minig like this. Also, when a person is davening and he doesn't hold by Aleinu in the Mishnah Berurah of Dirshu, they bring down from Rav Eliyashiv in his Sefer Yisu Yosef, and also from Reb Shlomo Zalman in Mavak Torah, that a Svardi which davens in a Besmedrish, which is Ashkenaz, in Ashkenaz they say Aleinu after Ashrei V'Letzion, not like we say it after the Yoim and after Enkelekenu. They say it right after Aleinu Shabayach. So they write a person, a Svardi which davens in a shul, Ashkenazi shul, and they say Aleinu right after Ashrei V'Letzion, you don't have to say together with the tzibur Aleinu. And in Tfilah Ki Halucha, Kalchusa, Amad Shin Chuv Ches, Ha'ora Lamed Aleph, he brings down for Rabbi Yanka Fisher, which says that this whole halacha that you should say together with the Shlich Tzibur Aleinu is only if a person comes into shul and he sees the tzibur hold by Aleinu, you should also say Aleinu. But if a person is davening and he holds somewhere else, over there it's not the halacha that you have to say Aleinu together with the whole tzibur, because you hold you're oisig in other betfillah, you're oisig in other things. So therefore, you don't have to say together with the tzibur. But the Rebbe in Shulchan Menachem Chelik Aleph Siman in page Ayin Reish Beis 272, the Rebbe writes exactly on this question: if a person davens in a shul, of Ashkenazi shul, which they say Aleinu after Shir Shayom, after the Yom, before the Yom, I'm sorry, and he's davening according to Nisachari, and he says Aleinu after Kavai, after Enkelekenu, the Rebbe writes, you should say Aleinu together with the whole tzibur, and then you should say again Aleinu after you finish davening, because there's a Kabbalah, you have to say Aleinu the end of all the davening. So when the tzibur says Aleinu, you have to say because it's derech eretz to say together with the tzibur. And the end of the davening, you say it again, because according to Ari Zal, you have to say the end of the davening. And this is also mashma in Ktseis HaShulchan Simi Yid Gimel Sifkut Nevov. So although we mentioned before other poskim which hold you don't have to say Aleinu together with the tzibur, we as Chasidei Chabad, once the Rebbe passes like that, Ein Achar Melech Klim, and we have to say in such a case Aleinu right after Ashrei V'Letzion, and say again afterwards. And it's interesting to note that the Rebbe adds on one line, The Rebbe writes you should say Aleinu both twice, and he says in both times you should say the whole Aleinu. What does the Rebbe mean? Because other poskim say that when you have to say Aleinu, because the Tzibur says Aleinu, you don't have to say Va'alkain lekavlechu. You only say Aleinu till Va'alkain. So when the Rebbe writes you should say Kilo, it means you should say the full Aleinu, also Va'alkain lekavlechu. And that's what we have to do as Chasidei Chabad, to say twice Aleinu. Question. I washed the bread, and in the middle of eating, someone came in, and I stopped eating and went into the living room while sitting with him about for 2.5 hours. After that time, after 2.5 hours, he left. Can I go back to my diner and continue eating, or do I need to wash again and make again a berches al natilas yadayim and berches hamoitzi? Shechanurach sima kif pai ches sifkut ches. The Machaber writes, till when could you make a bracha? That means could you bench? Could you make a berches hamozen after eating? Till you digest the food. How much is it? What is the time? As long as you did not get hungry again from the previous meal. That means if you ate a meal and you got hungry again, or you're not full again, you're not full from that meal, that's shirikl. That means if you went over that time, you started getting hungry again, that's shirikl. Even though physically, not necessarily it was already digested, but we are considering it digested since it went through the time that you start getting hungry again. We going according to the minutes. The skumas apoiskim, it's about 72 minutes. After 72 minutes, you cannot bench anymore, only if you're still really full from the meal which you ate. The Mishnah Brira, Sifkut Yid Zayin, writes on the Shulchan Aruch, after the Machaber says, as long as he's still hungry, afterwards, the whole achila gets nisbatel. That means it's no more that meal, and you lost the berches hamozen. You cannot bench anymore. And if you want to continue eating, he says das hamogen avruam and sifkut and tes, that you have to say hamoitzi again, even if you are not masich das. You thought the whole time that you want to go back and eat after he's going to leave, but since it went through the time that is akal hamozen, which is 72 minutes, or you got hungry again, you still have to make, you lost the berches hamozen, you have to make a no bracha again. A lot of poskim, which is the Even Oizer, the Derech Chaim, the Mugen Geboirim, disagree with the Mugen Avruam, and they say that the first bracha Rishoina, he did not lose. That means although he cannot bench, because he lost the benching, but he can still continue eating without washing again and saying Hamoitzi. But the Alter Rebbe, Shulchan Aruch, in Siv Gimel, which is Kif Pai Ches Siv Gimel, he passes like the Mugen Avruam, that if he went through the time of this Achel Hamozen, you lost the bracha, and if you want to eat, you have to make again a bracha before eating. You have to make hamoitzi again. And the same will also go, you'll have to make again a natilas yadayim. Wash a natilas yadayim. Now, by natilas yadayim, if you did not have heschadas, you made sure you wash your hands the full time, then you should wash and not say berches al natilas yadayim again. But if it is in a way that after 2.5 hours you didn't wash, you might touch some place in your body, or you touch your nose, or whatever it should be, and it might you might touch a place which that means that's considered heschadas from washing your hands. So therefore you should wash again and make al natilas yadayim. So to answer your question, you went into your dining room. in living room and you sat there for 2.5 hours, although the whole time you had in mind, I want to finish eating, you cannot bench anymore. You cannot eat anymore, only if you're going to wash again. And you're going to say Hamoitzi again. And then you could continue eating. Regarding Al Natil Sidayim, it depends if you watched the full time your hands that you shouldn't touch something which you cannot touch, Emil Vasuda. So that means you had the Heschadas. Then when you wash again, you should make a broch Al Natil Sidayim. But if you were careful not to touch anything, you should wash again, but do not make a bracha of Al Natil Sidayim. Thank you for joining us, and please join us again next week and send in your questions to inbox@Anash.org. Good night and have a wonderful week.